it's worth saying this. The euro was conceived of in 1999, but it was implemented in the year 2002. Everybody turned, all the countries turned in their currency, and the European Central Bank, which was created, gave them all euros equivalent to a certain amount of exchange. In that same year, 2002, the Red-Green Alliance of the Social Democrats and the Green Party in Germany inaugurated a program. I think John told me it's called the Hearts Program, I believe. And the aim of this program was step by step to bring down the wages and working conditions of the German working class. And they did it. They made unemployment insurance harder to get and lowered it. They broke up pattern bargaining that had existed in Germany and allowed all sorts of violations and separate agreements of collective bargaining agreements that were supposed to be for the whole working class. They began to bring women into the workforce as a cheap labor competitor to the orthodox core working class of male working class in Germany. They did many other things to undermine the wages of and benefits of the German workers, and gradually, by 2005, they got the workers' wages in Germany below the rest of the European working class. Yes, yes, even though they're richer, and it's a richer country, and they have a higher standard of living, the working class in Portugal and Spain and Italy and the southern countries are stronger in relation to their own weak ruling classes, and were able to hold off the attack better than the German workers. So they used this advantage, plus the fact that they colonized Eastern Europe, and let's not forget that, and they took over the GDR with its tremendous low-wage working class, skilled, highly skilled workers, who they brought in and suppressed their wages. With all these advantages, they dominated Europe, and they dominated the poor southern countries, and what they call, it's a derogatory terms that they use for them, I won't even repeat it. And they began to dominate more and more Greece, Portugal, Spain, and made inroads in Italy, but mainly those ones that I mentioned. Don't forget Eastern Europe, which was a colony, which they colonized. Poland, the Czech Republic, Romania, Slovakia, those countries. They were oppressed countries in relation to German imperialism. Ireland is a British colony, and the British U.S. Reservoir for the British and U.S. capital. And they, of course, they've suffered too. But the main point about it is that once this steamroller began, the banks in Europe, the big banks in Europe and the U.S., Morgan, Chase Manhattan, the bank of the various banks in the continent, they took advantage of the weaker countries and began to push them to sell them bonds to deal with their problem, their economic problems. Selling bonds is the biggest moneymaker for banks, selling bonds. You have to realize it. You hear it, you don't know what it means. Trillions of dollars in bonds are floating around this globe, and the bankers, every time one is traded, they make money. No matter who buys it, they make money. They float them to begin with. They make money putting them out on the market. They make money when they're traded. And so they created, just like the housing bubble here in the United States, they created a bond bubble in Europe, a government bond bubble. And now there are holes in that bubble because of the economic crisis, the contraction of the treasuries of the capitalist countries. And the first hole is Greece is a hole in this bubble. And Portugal is a hole in the bubble. And Ireland is a hole. And now a bigger bubble is showing in Spain. And an even bigger one in Italy. And the whole thing may just burst, collapse. It's deflating now. But it may just totally collapse, and they're trying to figure out how to stop it. And they all have the same answer. Make the workers of Europe pay the price. We want our money. We want every nickel. And we're going to take your pensions. We're going to raise the retirement age. We're going to lay off hundreds of thousands, actually more than 1 million workers in Europe, 700,000 in England alone. England cut their budget by 20% across the board, and their first goal was to lay off 400,000 workers. But now, as their austerity program progresses, the economy is sinking. So now what's their answer? More layoffs, more cutbacks. In Portugal the same, in Ireland the same. Now the new Prime Minister of Italy has come in with new austerity measures, big sales taxes, layoffs, wage cuts. So what they're fighting about, on one hand, is saving the euro, but really what they're fighting about is saving their own money, not their money, saving their own necks and getting their last pound of flesh and transferring the crisis onto the backs of the workers of Europe. That's what this struggle is about. The Germans have a formula. The French modified their formula. But they're all united, whatever their formula is, on making the workers pay. You know this bubble that I referred to as a bond bubble, and I compared it to the mortgage bubble? There's an even closer comparison. The city of Harrisburg, which is the capital of Pennsylvania, filed for bankruptcy. Why? Because the city needed a new incinerator. So the banks got in there and said, oh, we'll take care of you. We'll just give you some loans. You can buy the incinerator. So they gave the city loans, and they charged them interest. And then the economic crisis came, and the city couldn't really pay it back that fast. And the banks were breathing down their neck. And finally, the city couldn't pay. So the city of Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania, had to file for bankruptcy. Jefferson County, Alabama. They needed a new sewage system. The sewage was all over, backing up all over the city, all over the county. And they needed it. The banks got in. I think it's J.P. Morgan Chase. Said, oh, we'll take care of you. No problem. You need a new sewer system? Fine. They gave them money. They charged them big, high interest. Then the economic crisis came. The city had to sue for bankruptcy, the biggest bankruptcy, municipal bankruptcy in the U.S. history.